and we're going to bring in little Timmy Seanor with the UFO Report.
Nobody's going to know.
They're going to know.
Big Tim Seanor, the Timbit, finally getting ready to come to Canada for a lot of fun under the sun and a lot of weird stuff about to happen here. I'm so looking forward to this weekend, my man, to see you again.
Excited is such a small word. I wish there was like a few of them that we could stack in the excitement. I'm definitely pumped. I have no idea what to expect. I know something's going to happen, right? So bring on the woo. I'm ready, and I've got cameras rolling. So let's see what we can get.
It's going to be pretty great. I mean, we're going to be doing some things with a camera. You can't be too specific of what we're doing, but let's just say Merle's going to be here. Samantha Mowat is going to be here. And we are going to be out in the middle of the forest looking for weird things to happen. Speaking of weird things that are going on right now, Tim, we're going to get into some deep talk here regarding this latest UFO hearings that are going to be happening. They are taking place next week. They are including Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett, who has been a real positive mouthpiece for the UFO disclosure movement. Whether or not he could get anywhere with it, that's another story. But just your thoughts on all of this.
Well, I know Representative Luna is also going to be there and presenting, and I'm sure that everyone knows that is going to bring a whole new realm of questions to the table. And so regardless of who else is going to be there, I think that that's going to be someone that's going to be asking interesting questions. The whistleblower list, that's still up in the air. Regardless of what that list is, whether we know them or not, it's going to be details presented to Congress, and at that point, representatives will have the opportunity to ask questions so we can get to the bottom of it. If they're talking about craft and bodies, this is the chance to ask for the details. And I think that this is the time to do so. So, yeah, my first thoughts are that this is something to look forward to on the 26th in a big way. I know I'll be watching.
I know I will be paying attention as well. And coming up, we're going to see who is actually speaking. There's a lot of rumors going around whether or not Lou Elizondo will be one of the speakers in this, whether it's going to be David Grush again. I'm hearing rumors that it's going to be the three fighter pilots, Ryan Graves, Alex Dietrich, as well as David Fravor, who are going to be speaking in this three-person panel once again. And, I don't know who it is. I don't know if they're going to have any new faces getting into this. Okay. But I don't know if there is going to be any real bombshells being dropped here on the UFO world if it's the same people where for the last number of years outside of David Grush that we've actually heard their stories.
Well, I actually think quite the opposite. The fact that if they are bringing people that we've seen publicly before, this is the chance for Congress to get into it deeper. So if there are questions and answers being taken place behind closed doors, at least there will be some answers that are new for Congress. So the public portion, obviously, that's the part that we'll get. Some of that, I'm sure, will be new to us. So let's just fingers crossed, hope that that whistleblower list will include some new faces and some new stories from potentially people that we've already seen come forward publicly. My thoughts in particular are really positive at this point. From everything that I'm hearing, this is just another step forward in getting this out into the public purview. The responses will definitely be hit by the main media. So we are moving this narrative forward. This is what disclosure, quote unquote, kind of looks like, at least from the government's perspective. This is the way they're doing it. So we're really along for the ride at this point. We do have some push, but I feel like this is going to be the next step. Hopefully we'll get some educated questions.
I hope so too. What do you want to see through this? I mean, because the first 3 hearings really haven't been impressive. They really have struggled over time in order to grab the attention of what we are or what we're trying to get to with this. What do you want to see out of this?
Like I said, I would love to get deeper into what David Grush brought forward. If he's one of the people that we get here on the 26th coming and speaking again, I would love the details. Let's get specifics and not just necessarily 1933 and some vagueness. Let's get where that craft is, where those bodies are, and some details. If you've heard about them, I'm sure you asked questions. Like, let's hear the answers that you received when you asked, like, what did those bodies look like? What did the craft look like? Were they intact? And, we'd heard rumors of a craft that you enter and it's the size of a football field, whereas it's only the size of maybe 20 meters across on the outside. That's interesting. Like, if you can point to where that exists, let's talk about that, you know? So if Lou Elizondo is one of the people that come forward, I would like to know where the images are that he refers to when it comes to seeing the pilots in the craft. That was one of the claims that he made. I would love to know more about those details. And also perhaps more about why the programs have been hidden for so long. What is the big secret? Why don't they want us to know about potential life on this planet existing without us knowing about it? It wouldn't surprise us, right? We come across new species all the time. It shouldn't be a big surprise that there's potentially one more that's gone on existing without us knowing about it, whether it's under the oceans or underground or right next to us in a parallel universe, if that's the way it's working at this point. But we just need to know. And so I think those are the hard questions that we need to ask more depth on when it comes to these public hearings. So if there are massive claims, let's get those details out publicly so that the public isn't scratching their heads at this point and wondering what their government is spending the money on.
Well, I mean, here's the big thing that I don't understand. And maybe it's Tim Burchett talking tough, like a lot of politicians do. I mean, we saw Senator Gillibrand talking tough before the last big hearing on UFOs, and it ended up being a real nothing burger when it came down to it. There was really no real big story that popped out of that, outside of the fact that there were now 800 reports, and that number seems to be increasing, which is a good thing, but I mean, if they plan on trying to get, whether it's Elizondo, whether it's David Fravor or Alex Dietrich or whomever, whether they try and get new information out of them or not, these guys have to be very careful. They're under NDA. And if those NDAs are broken, they could get in a heap load of trouble, with a lot of things, maybe job loss, maybe pension loss, demotion in rank still because their pensions are on their current rank, and it may be something along those lines. I don't know. I mean, for you, Tim, do you expect any bombshells to come out next week?
Well, if there are any bombshells, I do think that it would be the sort of thing that was okayed by the DoD. There won't be anything that's not pre-approved. That's for sure. And we know that classified information is still a problem. And even though we've had this bipartisan measure that aims to force the release of those UFO records, the legislation backed by Chuck Schumer, that is a review board to work on declassifying documents and renegotiating how to classify oncoming information. so that it doesn't get bypassed by, the people that need to know at Arrow. Those are the people that need to be receiving the information so that they can be informing Congress. And if the information is being triangulated away from them because of its classification, that is a massive problem. And I think that that is what this measure aims to handle. And I think that that's a big step, and that will allow these bombshells to come forward. Because once Congress is informed, we can see legislation put in place, and that legislation will scream, obviously and clearly, what information they've received. And so, yes, I think we're going to see something coming. It may be a subtle bombshell, but I think we will see something.
I'm very much interested to see who is going to be on that panel. We've already mentioned a few names. We do know that Bob Lazar will not be one of the people. I mean, there's been a lot of people, around social media, especially on Twitter, who have been trying to get Bob Lazar on here and trying to get Bob in into Congress, but he doesn't feel he has anything to add. He wants out of it, but he's always been reluctant when it comes to this. It really is no surprise that Bob Lazar, 99.99999%, is not going to be one of those people.
Right. Well, instead of Bob Lazar, Eric Davis. I mean, that's an easy second if you're going to go into that genre, because that's kind of the other unreachable at this point, but I think should be brought forward. That would be my number one, because I feel that that could be the source of a lot of the information that we're hearing. So why not go directly to the source? That's my personal opinion. I have no idea who's on this list. I would love to consider, Hal Puthoff. That would be a great name to be on that list. And I've heard, just like you, some of the pilots from Twitter and some of that universe where there's some buzz and it's all hypothetical. And people say that to be skeptical and to, well, not necessarily skeptical, but to be kind of negative about the hearings, and that we've already heard from these people before. But this is a very different scenario where these people will be brought before Congress, tell their story, and then they can have an interaction with Congress members that want to question them. And then there's the public portion as well. So I wouldn't expect to hear the same thing we've heard before, definitely a reiteration, but we can expect there to be questions and answers. And I think that that could be, the realm that your bombshell lives in. So I'm definitely positive for this. I'm not expecting much, but I'm positive.
The idea that we're going to get pertinent information, maybe aliens, maybe the crash retrievals. Do you see that conversation happening in public or behind the scenes again?
Well, I think that definitely we'll get a reiteration of it publicly, because let's consider that we only heard it from News Nation and the Ross Coldhart interview. So the public has yet to hear it in that consideration. It's only been led through those channels on media. So yes, I think we could consider a reiteration of David Grush's story. I don't necessarily expect any new revelations, because again, this would have to be something that's pre-approved by the DOD, at least for the public portion. Now, interestingly, he would be questioned confidentially behind closed doors with Congress members. And that's where the deep dive obviously will take place, because that there are some smart people sitting there and they are prepared with questions. And so the public portion may not be the bombshell that we're expecting or hoping for. I wouldn't say expecting, but hoping for. But I do consider the fact that we may see some new information, at least on the David Grush story, if he is a whistleblower, that is brought forward. And that's the only way I think that could be brought forward publicly, because they've already kind of laid the groundwork with him and at least given him a substantial backstory so that if people wanted to look deeper after this hearing, they could go ahead and do their research and find the News Nation story and see Ross Coldhart's interview with him.
I don't think he's going to have the ability, Grush that is, to say anything that he hasn't said already. Look, he dropped some major bombs. Even though he was never an eyewitness to it, the people that he worked with stated that they did have crash retrievals, that they did have fully intact craft, that they did have the bodies of the pilots of these craft. And maybe, well, he never said this, but we can only assume that he also meant potentially alive, or at least alive at one point of these craft. I don't know what more David Grush can say, considering that everything he said, he would have had to have been approved by his superiors to talk about in a
Right.
public light. And I don't know if that is going to push over the edge a different type of scenario. I really don't.
Well, consider if the whistleblower protection is enacted, then he should be able to bypass his NDA with Congress in those closed door meetings. Obviously, not publicly, because that would probably break his NDA agreement. But I believe that with the whistleblower protection, the whole point of this was to get deeper questions to Congress. So do you agree that that protection is enacted and he can talk deeply with some of those members?
I think he'll be able to talk behind the scenes, probably a lot more than what he has. Maybe I don't think he can give any more resolute stories, but I think he can uh, talk as long as it's secured. Okay, he might be able to go into more detail of the people he talked to, naming names, which he can't do in public. Okay, naming, where these craft are being stored. That would be something that could happen in a private conversation, but getting out to the public. Could you imagine the witch hunt if all of a sudden he came out and said that, oh, pick a place, okay, that these craft are sitting at Bigelow Aerospace in Las Vegas, or maybe these craft are sitting at the Lockheed Skunk Works in California. I mean, that's a lot of information. People would be picketing those places. People would be rushing the door. They would be Naruto running as fast as they could right to those locations quicker than they would trying to break into Area 51. Okay. And I really think that that would be a major security risk, not only for the American Defense Department, but I mean, you have to look at what would the Russians and Chinese all of a sudden start doing, right? How would they be reacting to this? I mean, there's a lot going on here, Tim, when we get to this subject. And I just don't know how this is going to play out. This is what scares me a little bit.
Well, my question is, what if something that he says confirms something that, like, say, Bob Lazar had said? And not to spin back to Bob, but if that happened and his name came out again, could he be subpoenaed?
Possibly. Possibly. I mean, why not?
And what would that mean? What would the impact of something like that? Because let's say that Eric Davis's name was dropped, then would he potentially be subpoenaed, I guess?
I would say that they need to be very careful with who they bring on. Be very careful with who they're getting their information from. Look, I don't think it's going to help. And I'm not shooting down the fighter pilots, no pun intended. But if it's David Fravor, Alex Dietrich, and Ryan Graves, what haven't they said publicly that they're going to say differently under the hearings?
Well, there may be data that's linked that they can't make public. And let's consider that their stories match some data that they can show. I would say that there's something along those lines, because otherwise you're absolutely right. But I think what you're saying is probably the way it's going to play out. But the same way they entered the Wilson Davis documents into congressional record, they can do so with anything by a congressperson's request. So all it has to do is be brought up and questioned, and then that can trigger a line of inquisition that might get interesting. And I could see something like that happening at this point.
I could see something happening like that too. But the question is the public going to get screwed on this again? And I think that's something we need to talk about in the next half hour, because the one thing that Tim Burchett has been very vocal about over the last, let's say year or two, is that there isn't enough information funneling from the government to the people regarding this subject. And there seems to be a little bit of support starting to build from that. We're going to see how true Tim Burchett really is next week. We're going to see if he is just full of hot air, or if he's a politician that actually sticks to the truth and sticks to what's going on in the UFO world. Tim Seanor is here with the UFO Report. We will get more back to the Tim Burchett UFO hearings coming up July 26th. We're putting a panel together for that night. So you're going to want to stick with us for all your UFO news on Spaced Out Radio.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. Just for our audience, so that way our audience knows, I'm going to be, as soon as Tim and I are done, I'm going to be signing off the air, because I'm not going to get a chance to do my editing tonight. I'm going to have to do it tomorrow morning. I'm just really, really sore after my chiropractic appointment, and I can't get comfortable. So I'm going to be taking care of that once we get off air, and then I'm going to have to get up like 15 minutes, 20 minutes early to edit the show. But I just want to let everybody know that normally, you know, we let you chat around and do our thing. And I've got this little stupid bug that has been flying into my face the entire time here since the commercial break. But I can't find it now, of course.
I had one here. It's probably that one. It probably just flew right to you.
Tell me about it. It's quite okay. It's quite okay.
Are you all pumped and ready?
Oh, yeah.
I hope you've been working out, because we're going to be eating Timbits. Not this Timbits. The donuts, right? Is that a thing? Are they donuts?
They're donut holes, man.
Oh, even better. All right. Ay, caramba.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not big on carbs, but make an exception.
Yeah. Hi, Thurston Howell the Third. I keep seeing this stupid little fly in my peripheral vision. And when I go to get focused on it, I can't see it. I know it's around here somewhere.
Yeah, grab the microphone. That's definitely where.
Buy it. Oh, well.
It's going to be good to hang out with you. You're such a character. This guy. Are we doing a show together in your little studio there, or what?
No, we'll figure something out. I got Marquise hosting on Friday night.
I'm okay.
So.
Cool. Right.
I don't know where we're going with that afterwards.
Sweet.
Well, depends, because we will probably be in the forest filming that night.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think that Friday night's gonna happen.
Yeah. We'll get Terrence Hall to do the UFO report. Right.
Yeah, you should actually get Mr. G. That dude did a great job.
Oh, Rob G. Yeah, that would be a good.
I'll still send him the stories and he can just read them. How's that?
Sure.
Same way I do. I just read the stories. I just do what I'm told.
Oh, I hear you.
Oh, easiest gig. Oh, look at this. He's in the chat and says, anytime, buddy. What a guy, this guy.
Oh,
Rob.
sweet Robbie G. Best chin hair in UFO radio right there.
Right.
Jimmy 999X, how you doing? Skip to Malou. Good to see you. Chris.
Yeah.
Teen. Nice
There
to
it
have you
is.
back.
I love that pause.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys haven't subscribed to Social Dig, get over there and subscribe.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, Marquise. So it'll be Marquise hosting, and then just have Rob G jump in for the UFO report, and they can gig it together. Oh, that'll be music, dude.
That's a good show.
That's a good show right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What a duet.
A beautiful duet.
Those voices, forget about it.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got 20 seconds. Big thank you, Deb, Charles, Louis ×3, Lala ×2, Vaughn, Lara, Jake, Simon, W. Decker. Very much appreciate the love. Thank you to everybody who's hit subscribe and rang that bell tonight. Hi, MM3. How you doing? Sweet Tony D. Good to see you. And we're going with the final half hour right now. We're on at third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with Tim Seanor and the UFO Report. Tim, thank you so much for joining us. And right before the break, I had mentioned to you, Congressman Tim Burchett out of the state of Tennessee has been very loud and proud to talk about how he wants full disclosure. He wants everything on the table, everything the United States government and the agencies and the military knows about UFOs. He feels that all of it should be in the hands of the American public, that there should be no secrets when it comes to this subject of whether or not we are alone in this universe or else where, pardon me. And July 26th, it is going to be a major event, and all eyes are once again going to be on Washington, D.C. for the latest UFO hearings. My question to you is this. Considering how loud Tim Burchett has been regarding wanting full disclosure of everything, what if this hearing flops? What if he doesn't open up to the public what he has learned? What if he goes silent and keeps everything behind closed doors, as we've seen others do in the past 3. How does that hurt his reputation?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that particularly happening. It would potentially hurt his reputation. We've seen him come out of those hearings disappointed in the past, and I think fired up for the future. And the fact that he's going to be, leading the parade on this one, I think puts him in a place that he needs to be. And he's got tons of support with Representative Luna. And I think even though she's a freshman, I guess you would say, congressperson or congresswoman, she's been tapped by the oversight chair, James Comer, to co-lead the committee's investigation. So I feel like the fact that there are 2 people that are really strong on this topic, and between the 2 of them, I think they have a deep understanding and have sat in on a lot of the conversations that were confidential and not public in the past. And that was part of their outrage. And part of what Tim was saying was that he was aware of all of these things taking place, and they were held as secrets from the public. And that was what he wanted to change. And Representative Luna has been very clear on her position, saying that it's very likely that there's life forms out there. I think that that's a strong position to come into a hearing with. So it's a bold statement. And so she'll be asking the questions to hopefully support that theory, or that concept at least, because it sounds like she may know maybe a little more than she's letting on publicly. Same way Tim Burchett has been very clear that he can't, say a lot of the things that he already knows, but, he likes to be as clear as hinting as he can to what that is. But again, it's that lack of transparency that outrages Tim. I think that puts him in a great position here to co-lead this committee.
Well, I want to see it, though. He's got to prove that to us. Okay. He's got to prove that he is not just a bunch of hot air when it comes to this subject. And I think this is his litmus test, because if he fails on this and he fails to bring anything out, everybody's going to absolutely lambaste him on social media. And as well as I do, the UFO public on places like Twitter are not very kind at the best of times, let alone the worst of times, which would be that this guy who's claimed he was going to get it done couldn't get it done. This is where I just don't see it. I mean, we'll find out soon enough who they are going to choose to be the speakers of the event. That's just hours away. Okay, so I don't know, Tim. I mean, I want to see this happen. I love the fact that he has been a champion of true disclosure, whether you agree with his politics or not. Okay, he also shows that this is a very, very bipartisan topic. It's not a Republican topic. It's not a Democrat topic. It is an everybody topic in the United States. And I think that's a good thing. We need information, though. The public needs information. No more stories, not things that, are going to be rumored to be behind closed doors. Okay? I don't think David Grush could say any more. Is there going to be a new face? There possibly could be. The 2 groups that I have heard, once again, are the 3 fighter pilots, David Fravor, Alex Dietrich, and Ryan Graves. But I've also heard it could be Lou Elizondo, David Grush, and James Lakatsky. Well, we've heard from all of them, especially Elizondo, over the years. Your thoughts, Tim?
Well, yeah, I really have no thoughts on who's going to be speaking, but I definitely consider the strength in the committee that's put together. In a recent tweet from Representative Anna Paulina Luna, She says, on July 26th, I and Representative Tim Burchett, as well as our Democrat counterpart, Representative Moskowitz, will be leading out the hearing in the oversight into UAP. And so they include in this tweet some UAP facts, and I think that these are great. So 12,618 sightings were reported to Project Blue Book, and out of those sightings, 701 remained unidentified. Since last summer, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office has received 366 UAP reports, and the total reflects 247 new UAP reports and another 119 that occurred before March of 2021. And so I find that, so that sources from the Project Blue Book NPR article on the Pentagon report. So I find some of that interesting, and the fact that she's tweeting that out, that absolutely shows her position that, these are facts. They're facts that have been reported since the beginning of our investigations. And it was squashed the first time that it was brought out. And so this time we can't just let it go. This is the sort of thing that needs to be addressed, and we need to have legislation reflect that. So, I love to think of the people that could be brought forward in support of this, but what they need is deep analysis of what's being brought forward, because we can see that just the reports aren't enough. Just the whistleblowing isn't enough. It's been set back, 75 years ago. They decided they weren't going to talk about this. And then we had the Condign report and all of these other things that came forward to set it back and keep it quiet and maintain it, maintaining control. And that is exactly what Tim Burchett is screaming about, and so we're seeing, these are people that are the perfect co-chairs to lead this committee, in my opinion, at this time. Now, you want to see it. You want to see it reflected either through legislation or publicly in the hearings, the public version. I absolutely agree with you, but at the same rate, as long as the people that are able to make changes hear the information, I'm okay not knowing, to be completely honest. Yes, I want to know, but I can't demand to know. And so hopefully, we'll see some changes, and what we hope is our version of disclosure for the public will be trickled out to us. We can't have high expectations. So I do like to see that the people in this co-chair position, though, will be well-knowledged and have a little bit of let's say, a burning in their gut to get the truth and transparency squashed. Truth out and transparency squashed.
Well, we're going to see what happens. It's not that far away, and unfortunately, like everybody else, we're going to have to speculate truly what's going on with this. I mean, it's pretty how can we put it? It's pretty up in the air right now, and we can only hope that more knowledge actually comes out. More knowledge is what we need. I mean, I see, more witnesses out there. If there are more David Grushes out there, is this the kind of panel that they want to come out to? That is something to think of too. I mean, do you want to be, you have your name in the same vocabulary as Tim Burchett, who really doesn't want any NDAs regarding this subject? That could be dangerous, especially if your name is tied to other black projects or worldly projects where you may have been put in danger or could put you still in danger. So, I mean, there are other things that have to be weighed in here. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that, these could be things that are weighing down a lot of people from speaking, at least at this time.
Right. The problem with that is that there has been pressure applied. They've given them a 6-month window to come forward, right? Otherwise, they can be brought forward and there can be litigation. and their NDAs may or may not be valid if they don't come forward voluntarily. So they may still have to talk, but then they may be responsible for the information. Why not come forward with, the confidentiality and the protection? So I think that they're applying some pressure to these people that are in the know, whether they're in a black budget program supported by the government or, on the books or off, whether it's being hidden in the private sector. These are the people that they're referring to. And if your name comes forward at some point and you haven't volunteered, then you may not be within the 6-month protection window. So you need to, and this is what it's stating, come forward voluntarily now. And I think that's just so that they can get this over and done with, and they've got that 6-month window to deal with whistleblowers, perhaps, at the same rate, because that's what it is on paper. But at the same rate, it does apply some pressure. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily a witch hunt, because I don't like that word politically. It's very, stigmatized. But I can see how people could consider it that, where they're saying you have to come out and volunteer this information, otherwise there could be litigation. That's just heavy-handed. So, what would your consideration on that be if you had information and you didn't want to come forward, but you knew you had to? What do you think, Dave? It's a little tedious, isn't it?
It would all depend on where it's coming from and who's holding the hearings. I don't know if, how can I put it? I don't know if I would try and push this forward if I didn't trust the politics of the person who is holding the hearings. That's where I would struggle with it. If I had information to give, I would really struggle with that.
Right.
And when I look at, if I was in that position and I look at Tim Burchett, who even in his portfolio has nothing to do with defense, has nothing to do with the agencies. He's just made this a personal issue because he saw the information. He's seen information since his curiosity got tickled by this subject. And I don't know if I would trust him in order. It doesn't matter his politics. I'm saying when it comes to my personal name and the defense of this, I don't know if I could trust him to uphold the oath of the law. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that it will be one of those things that we have to kind of wait and see on. I don't know. But what do you expect to see? What are your thoughts? Because I know you asked me. Do you think that potentially something will trickle out of this that will be new for the public?
No, nothing. I mean, we may get another name. We may get another incident. I don't think we're getting any photographs. I don't think we're getting any videos. I don't think we're getting any locations to what's going on. I don't think we're getting any of that. We may get more numbers. We may learn and find out that Arrow's numbers have gone up to 912 or 857, or maybe it passed 1,000. Who knows?
Right.
But I don't think, as for high quality information that David Grush dropped, I don't see us getting anything like that.
What do you think of some of the surrounding statements that were made by Ross Coulthart at the same time of the alleged huge buried UFO outside the United States? Do you think that any of that is linked to the conversations that come up? Why was that brought up at this time? And I mean, is he insinuating that this is like a craft that is remnants of like a bygone civilization? Or is it something that landed here from somewhere else? Like there was no reference after he brought that up. And I was wondering if it was sourced from David Grush, because it was right around the same time. I mean, do you have thoughts on, will we hear any details from more? If, like, let's say David Grush is the person that they bring forward in this whistleblower hearing publicly. Do you think that the follow-up questions would be brought out publicly? Because obviously his interview is not really that long. If you take out all of the commercials, it's probably only about a 20-minute conversation. So potentially there would be more in depth and more leading questions that could be made public. Do you think that that could happen? That we could get some of the where and when and how?
I would hope. I'm not positive on it.
Right.
I don't feel comfortable saying yes or no. I really don't.
Because it would have to be pre-approved by the DoD. Now, do you think that portions of what he knows, the names and places and all of that, are the confidential portion that he will share with Congress at least?
Tim, you're asking a lot of hypotheticals here.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I don't know how to answer it because I don't know how the system works. In the end, no matter what happens, we do know that someone is going to be left out in the cold. And 99.9% of the time, left out in the cold means the public doesn't get the information that they want or deserve. And I just see that happening again and again and again with this subject.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to sew it up. Can we lead the last little bit kind of on this topic, but a little interesting? I'd love to get your take on this. Still on topic, but not on the public hearing portion. So scientists have explored the possibility of detecting ancient civilizations in Earth's geological record. And so a recent paper called The Silurian Hypothesis discusses how traces of industrial civilizations could be found. While fossils and artifacts are unlikely to survive over millions of years, anomalous changes in chemical compositions could serve as clues. By studying geological anomalies and applying models to other planets, scientists hope to understand if civilizations existed in the distant past here on planet Earth. What are your thoughts on the Silurian hypothesis that we can potentially detect ancient civilizations in Earth's geological record?
Oh, Tim, you would make that the final question of the night, wouldn't you? I don't even know where to start with that. I don't even know where to start. I think that just a simple answer to that, and I'm going to dodge this. I think the simple answer to that is there is evidence that shows that humanity seems to have been visited for millennia. And I don't think we need any geological analysis to try and figure that out. I think it's in the hieroglyphs and the petroglyphs, not only in the pyramids, but, look here in North America, what First Nations, ancient people used to draw on the rocks. Okay, they've drawn enough aliens. Look at the Nazca lines. There's another example. I think we know what's going on, and that's about all we're going to stand with. And Tim, I got to cut it off right there because it is time for us to go home tonight. Yes, we actually get to go sleep in our beds, and I will see you in a couple of days' time, my man.
Indeed, I look forward to it, buddy. It's been fun, and thank you, chat. Thanks for staying up later.
Absolutely, and big thank you to Merle and the team, Haunted Discoveries, for a great paranormal show tonight. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
We're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home.
I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night.